Hi, this is John Linneball from John Linneball Tutoring, and this is Imminent Civil War. Lincoln wins the 1860 election and the South secedes. And here is my contact information if you want to contact me. And if you like this video, please do subscribe, like, and share this with people. Okay, thanks. Election of 1860. The political parties fractured. The Democrats were split into two factions, the pro-slavery Southern Dixiecrats and the Northern Democrats who were anti-slavery. The Southern Democrats carried the Deep South. John C. Breckinridge was the presidential candidate. And here is the Wikipedia article for that here, and I will also put that in the description below. The Northern Democrats nominated Stephen Douglas on the platform of popular sovereignty. That is, the people of each state could vote on slavery. Douglas carried only Missouri and parts of New Jersey. The third division was the Constitutional Union. That's the third party. Basically supported preserving the Union and avoided slavery. It carried the Upper South. John Bell was the candidate. And the Republican Party nominated, of course, Abraham Lincoln here. So there was a lot of division between the Democrats and the Constitutional Union Party and the Republican Party in the election of 1860. Lincoln wins the election of 1860. Divide and conquer. That was the strategy that won, and it's no surprise that it won because the Democrats were divided and really weren't much of a match for the United Republicans. So President Lincoln, or soon-to-be President Lincoln, and his VP candidate, Hannibal Hamlin, won despite not being on the ticket in 10 slave states. Imagine that, they won without even being listed in 10 states. So there's an article here from Wikipedia about the presidential election. And remember, there were 33 states in 1860, so almost one-third of the states, 10 out of 33, didn't even have Lincoln on the ballot. So you want to think about population. They weren't very populous states, but also think about division. So, they were so divided that even without 10 states, the Republicans still managed to win. And here's an article. This is from census.gov, so this is from the federal government, the department that does the census. And here are some fast facts about 1860, so you can find all this information there. Lincoln wins the election of 1860, the Prelude. So you can think of it as a prequel, kind of like Better Call Saul was to Breaking Bad. Anyway, Douglas and Lincoln's debate. So the Lincoln-Douglas debates before the election of 1860. Lincoln had been a Whig congressman from Illinois, and he opposed the Mexican-American War. He ran for Senate in 1858, but lost to Stephen Douglas, but he did impress people with his speeches. So he had 7 debates against Douglas and pressed Douglas to tell his people, that is Douglas's position on slavery. Douglas refused to elaborate. So Douglas refused to elaborate beyond popular sovereignty, and he race baited. So he used race-based insults and invective and rhetoric that we would find shockingly racist in this day and age, to a degree that would be shocking even to somebody like Donald Trump. Lincoln wins the election of 1860, the Prelude. So, Douglas and Lincoln's debates. There's a really great presentation of this whole thing at www.thoughtco.com. I would put it here, but I'd be violating their copyright. So I will put a link in the description below, and you can also see it here. Please do take a look at that. That's great. So let's look at 1858, specifically June 16th of 1858. Lincoln's House Divide speech, of course, was based on the Bible. I believe Moses said that first, that a house divided cannot stand. So Douglas accused Lincoln of inciting problems, that is, causing problems, and planning, to invite slaves to run away to Illinois. So basically, the problem is saying, well, all right, you're planning to invite all these slaves to move away to Illinois, And here's a website on that, from Chicago and Chicago politics, and talks about the history of Chicago there. So, and here's an example of a house divided. Haha, get it? All right, let's move on. Lincoln wins the election of 1860, the Prelude. Douglas and Lincoln's debates continued. So Lincoln believed that the Kansas-Nebraska Act and the Dred Scott case, which wouldn't allow territories to ban slavery, would eventually allow slaves to stay enslaved when taken to free states, such as Illinois. And from my understanding of the Dred Scott case, that's exactly right. That's what it would have allowed eventually, if not immediately following the Dred Scott case. But certainly, if someone litigated it further, that's probably the way it would have been decided. So, Northern Illinois abolitionists supported Lincoln. Slavery in Southern Illinois, well, the supporters of slavery in Southern Illinois wanted Douglas for obvious reasons. The election hinged on the votes of Central Illinois moderate ex-Whigs. The ex-Whigs hated slavery, but generally also hated blacks. Why? Well, economics. The labor of slaves or even freed blacks would undercut the price of white labor, or at least they thought it would. Certainly slaves would, and freed blacks, well, supply and demand. If there's more of a supply of labor, then probably the cost of labor is going to go down. So that's an awful reason to hate somebody, but hey, that's life. It's a lot like what we see, they're taking our jobs. But anyway, for you non-South Park fans, that's a South Park reference. But anyway, Lincoln wins the election of 1860, the Prelude, Douglas and Lincoln's debates. Maybe I don't need to keep repeating that, but hey, here we go. Illinois passed a set of black laws meant to keep African Americans from moving to Illinois. Many other laws from 1818 to 1865 were passed. So they had laws such as blacks couldn't testify against whites in court, gatherings of 3 or more blacks were prohibited, blacks were prohibited from staying in Illinois from out of state for more than 10 days. So you have black people coming from another state, let's say Missouri, they'd say, okay, you better be out of here in 10 days or you're going to be in trouble. And again, this is from chicagohistory.org. So there's no love of blacks on either side of this debate. It's not like Lincoln was a big fan of the African American, but he was a lot better than Stephen Douglas. And at least the GOP didn't want slavery, so that would be a good step in the right direction. And baiting. Swell. This is a swell fella, Douglas. He accused Lincoln of wanting a black wife, supporting mixed-race marriage, being a black Republican, haha, get it, and being close friends with Frederick Douglass. The two hadn't even met yet. They would actually become pretty good friends, and Lincoln did actually rely on advice from Frederick Douglass a lot. But at this point, this was just very rank race baiting on the part of Douglas. So let's move on. Seventh and last debate in Alton, Illinois on October 15th, 1858. Douglas made the same race baiting arguments that we've already kind of touched on here. So Lincoln responded by noting that Douglas supported the Missouri Compromise, the balance of slave and free states, the same name, and then turned against it by supporting the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which was based on popular sovereignty, popular sovereignty for the new territories that were being introduced then, Kansas and Nebraska. So that would be done by popular vote rather than just a balance that say, okay, then Kansas has to be a slave state and Nebraska has to be a free state or vice versa, because you have to have a balance. He said, no, just let everybody vote. So let's move on. Lincoln wins the election of 1860, the Prelude. Here we are again. Douglas and Lincoln's debates. So Lincoln opposed slavery for his whole life. He was an advocate of the American Colonization Society, which was an organization dedicated to providing freed, in quotes, inferior blacks a place where they could start their own separate country. So if you've heard this before, you think you've heard it before, it's because you have. You've probably heard somebody, well, why don't we just send them all back to Africa? So that was basically an organization that said just that. The country of Liberia was founded by slaves who left the U.S. and actually went back to Africa. And this whole idea was racist as all hell, but it was progressive by 19th century, that is the 1800s, U.S. century standards. And you can look this up on the Wikipedia page for American Colonization Society. However, Lincoln said he wouldn't interfere with slavery where it already existed, but he would oppose new slave territories. A lot of compromises in politics, you know? Lincoln won with only 40% of the popular vote, but he won the electoral vote, including the whole North, California, and Oregon. Assuming that Lincoln had honored his promise not to interfere with the slave states, that would not have been enough for the slave owners. Slavery needed to grow to remain profitable. Lincoln's victory caused the South to prepare to secede. And if you want more information on Liberia, you can go to the Liberia Wikipedia article. Lincoln wins his election in 1860 again, and we're still in the Prelude, and Lincoln and Douglas's debates. I read it backwards, but anyway. Assuming Lincoln had honored his promise not to interfere with the slave states, that wouldn't have been enough for slave owners. Slavery needed to grow to remain profitable. Lincoln's victory caused the South to prepare to secede. 7 southern states seceded before Lincoln's inauguration. Those states were South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas. And you can see the states which succeeded from OSU, so Ohio State University. All right, let's move on further. The Civil War begins. Lincoln would not allow secession, but did not want war. U.S. troops at Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina's harbor, were the last straw. The newly formed CSA, Confederate States of America, would not stand for the U.S. flag on what they called Confederate territory. The Civil War begins. Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederate States of America, ordered a bombardment of Fort Sumter in April 1861. The Union troops surrendered. Lincoln, in a proclamation, ordered 75,000 troops to cause the law to be duly executed. That's how the war began. The executive, that is Lincoln, he decided to execute the law. So there you go. Note, the United States versus Union. The non-Confederate states were still the United States as well as the Union. Some writers call the North the Union just to make it clear. That way, if you're saying the Union, oh, okay, we mean all the states that weren't the Confederacy. Other people just call it the United States. Either one is fine. Probably makes more sense to call it the Union if you mean the states that were not Confederate states, rather than calling it the United States, because that could confuse people. But either way, it's okay.
Did you find this video useful? If you did, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Neither action costs you anything, and you'll be alerted about my new videos. Why? Well, it's really simple. The YouTube does not let me share any ad revenue unless I have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of view time in a year. While many people are watching these, I don't have 4,000 hours of watch time in the last year. I also don't quite have 1,000 subscribers at this time, although at the time of this recording, it's very close, so why not help me get over the top? Why do you want to help me get ad money? Well, ad money will help me make more videos, so if you find these at all helpful, hey, why not help me help you? If you saw an ad during this video, please know I did not get any of the ad money, and I won't get any ad money until I have the subscribers and view time that YouTube demands. For the same reasons, you're not only welcome, but encouraged to share links to this video, put it in playlists, etc. And I do gladly read and respond to constructive criticism or suggestions for new videos. You want to tell me something? Go ahead, leave a comment in the comment section, email me, etc. My contact information is coming up after this. But I do reserve the right to delete comments such as troll posts or spam. You know, I realize an online connection might be cheaper than therapy, but please don't take out your problems on me, and please don't use my comment section to advertise spam products. Okay, you can hire me for tutoring if you are in the San Francisco Bay Area or somewhere near where I travel. We can meet in person. If you have an internet connection that can handle video or audio communications, and you must, otherwise I don't know how you're watching this, you can hire me for tutoring online. And what I'd like to say to everyone is thanks for watching. If you would like my contact information, please keep watching. Contact me. You can contact me through Facebook at www.facebook.com/Linneball-tutoring. Instagram, www.instagram.com, john.linneball.tutoring. My cell phone number is 415-623-4251. You can email me at john@johnlinneball.com, and my website is www.johnlinneball.com or www.johnlinneballtutoring.com. Doesn't matter which one you pick, it'll take you to the same website. Testpreparation.locals.com is my locals.com site. It has the same videos as this channel. Well, slightly edited because of space considerations, etc. on testpreparation.locals.com. But anyway, it's a nice thing, a lot lighter on the ads, etc. I'm also on lbry.tv at John Linneball Tutoring. And if you want to mail me something, you can reach me by mail at John Linneball Tutoring, 1859 Powell Street, number 109, San Francisco, California, 94133. Finally, please note, this is not a substitute for your classes, your text, etc. This video is based on the Barron's AP United States History Review Book, 4th edition, and any other sources listed in the video description, as well as my general knowledge of U.S. history. While this should help you do well on the AP U.S. History exam, I can't be responsible for what your teacher thinks is important and asks you about on his or her own tests, homework, etc. Please read your class text or texts and pay attention to what your teacher says in class if you would like to do well in that course. And with that, I'm out of here. Hope you have a good day.